What I'm going to ask you this weekend is if you knew it was up to you, how do you want to live your life? How do you want it to be? We have 6 kids. We know what's causing it. We're not willing to stop, okay? We live in Switzerland most of the year. There's there's 2 Americans in the village below us in the valley, and one of them's kind of a jarhead asshole. Not that I'm judging people at all, because I'm above that, but he came up and one day we were at the train station. He said, "How many kids do you have?" And I said, 6. He says, "Don't you own a TV?" And I said, "Yeah, but the videos we get." So he leaves me alone. He doesn't bother me much anymore. Yeah, have fun, no secrets. And one of the things I usually carry, well, let me just look and see. The thing about the photographs, we do those so that we can let you see yourself this weekend at some point how other people see you. The reason we go for the blank face is so that we get past the social expression so we can see what's there, and not in any way to judge or condemn or criticize the person that's there. We want you to get a sense of who you are and how other people see you. Christos and I have been in the process of writing a book for about 10 years, and one of the things that one of my clients is he out there?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, the maintenance guys can come and I'm going to help
Okay.
them out.
It seems to be working.
Yeah, it is working.
Okay.
Yeah, it's starting to cool. One of the things that we've said over the years, noticing fixes more than fixing. And one of the things, if you don't know where you are or what you're projecting, it's impossible to fix it. If you're in a chronic state, okay, wait a minute, before I get too carried away here, I just about did. One of the things I want to ask you is, if you were to look at your life right now, kind of overall, and just on a scale from 1 to 10, 10 being you're doing everything you want. You're traveling if that's your thing. You have as much sex, as much money. You're doing everything that you enjoy. I'm naming the things that I enjoy, okay? You may not like all of those things. And 1 being you're going to see whether this building is tall enough for you to meet your ultimate demise. Where currently is your life on a scale from 1 to 10? I know it's a tough one. I'm asking just kind of overall.
I'm right where I am, right where I always wanted to be too. Feels good.
Okay, 1 to 10?
8.
Okay, that's what I said 18 years ago.
Can we let in the...
That's working. Yeah.
We just want to know if we can get the thermostat below 7, lower. The room is cooling off a little bit, but it's staying hot.
Stay high?
Yeah, the thermostat says high. So what do we have to do to get it down to like 69? Sorry.
That's all right. Interesting number.
No, it's a compromise.
And it's cool. I mean, 70 may be low enough.
Yeah, I mean, it's in process. But the back door for me would really be good to be closed because that
Yes,
Oh,
sir.
something clinking out there, isn't it? Sounds like
that
it's...
machine sucks.
What is it?
There's a
It's
Pepsi
a Coke
machine.
machine,
Oh,
and the compressor is bad.
There's...
That's much better.
Okay.
Ding, 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 ding. And are you Kimberly?
Yes.
Is that okay? I thought that was the. Looked at the
We're
thing.
not doing name tags?
No, we're not doing name tags. You know, over the years, people have said they would be a good idea, and for me, a lot of times, it would be.
Mm-hmm.
But I always forget to take them off and feel like an idiot when I get to the restaurant. Hi, my name is Mick, and people say, hi, Mick, and it's like, how do they know that? And we were in Dallas at a seminar. The whole family went up. It was a pediatric network chiropractic seminar. And across the street from the hotel was the Waffle House, right? And wherever we travel, when we drive, we always point out the Waffle Houses. I don't know why. It's just one of those things that, oh, look, there's another Waffle House. And we drove into the parking lot and walked into the Waffle House. Does anybody frequent Waffle Houses here? When you go into a Waffle House, when you walk in, the staff is trained to turn and say, "Good morning, welcome to the Waffle House." Right? The entire staff. Right? So we walk in, my wife goes first, and there's 6 children in between us. And then there's me, and as I walk through the door, the entire staff turns around and says, "Good morning, MacKenzie family. Welcome to the Waffle House." I'm thinking this. Now, Nicole, my wife, has written a parenting book. She's got an online class, and her real desire is to be famous. She likes that. So she thinks she's made it. I'm famous. Me, I'm scared to death. I think Big Brother's watching me. But here I look at the counter, and here's 2 people that we know. A chiropractor and his wife laughing their asses off. They'd put the staff up to it. And we, here comes the MacKenzie family, say this. So the Waffle House. How do we get to the Waffle House? I will lose my segues throughout this weekend.
tags.
Name tags, right,
Yeah.
right. They,
Monkey suggestion, name tags.
Well, and it's a selfish suggestion for me because everybody knows how I am with names.
how are you with names?
God awful.
Oh, okay. Everybody knows how I am with names. That's why I'd ask. I'm sorry. Your life on a scale from 1 to 10?
Probably about a 6, maybe a 7.
6, 7?
Do I have to say?
Yeah. Yeah.
Can I lie?
Well, you know, that's
I don't know, I'll say 5.
5. Okay.
Well, since I'm older,
Me too.
I understand how it can change. And I think probably up until maybe a couple of years ago, I would have said 7, 8. Now I'm not sure, because I think that's dropped.
Okay, okay.
I'd say I'm a good solid 7 lately. And
Oh,
for
good.
me, that's pretty good.
Yeah, that's
6.
6.
If you're looking at the process and enjoying that, I'm 8 or 9. If comparing to where I want to get to, I'm probably 5 or 6 and moving there.
Okay, okay. We're going to make distinctions this weekend between an actual conversation and a conceptual conversation, a conversation that we're having in present time or a conversation that comes out of the world of the mind. I'm going to walk through these charts in just a second to kind of show you how the mind sets up a reality that isn't yours and it's based on a thing called enculturation that Maslow talks about. I started to say a minute ago, when I did my first class, my life was an 8 on a scale from 1 to 10 as well. At that time, and I still take seminars as well. But I'd done emotional healing workshops, a lot of professional workshops. I'm used to a real strong ongoing education in my life. Fire walks, things like that. I'm well versed in a lot of the things that are out there. But mine was also an 8. And it was that 20% that seemed skewed. I mean, it was that part that had my attention. I was a chiropractor, I had my own clinic, I had my own house. I was not married, and yet there was something like, what am I doing? There doesn't seem to be, and I liked what I did. I loved being with my patients, but the overall picture seemed to be 40 years doing this, 40 years muscle testing, 40 years, is that what I want my legacy to be? Is that what I want things to end up as? And so I did a weekend class with a man named Martin Sage who actually developed these charts. These are not mine. He developed them. And after the weekend, everything was different in my life. And everybody had been claiming that would be so. When all these courses said, oh, things are going to change dramatically. And has anybody here walked across hot coals? Have you tried that one? Anybody? It's interesting. I mean, the fact that you can do it, right? 1,200 degree hot coals. But to this day, I can't get from the car when I'm at the beach to the water. It's not a lasting skill, even if I do all the ritual bullshit that they ask me to do. Oh, I swear a lot. Swam. I tell really horrible jokes, and they'll get worse throughout the weekend. I'm just kind of preparing you. But I did the class, and I set my class up similar to this, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Monday I went back into my office, and things were really, really different. I couldn't pinpoint any of the differences. They seemed real tangible, but I couldn't say what they were. My staff seemed happier. I was happier, I knew that. By Tuesday night, I went back to the follow-up, which we're going to do here as well. We film you the second time on Tuesday night so that we can see what has changed. We're not looking for better or worse in the films, and I'll say this again and again and again. I'm not looking for better and worse. I'm looking to see how much you've changed in a short period of time. Okay? If I want you to be better, if I want anything for you, right, it's going to skew the whole class. right? Because what would be better for you, right, my interpretation may be completely wrong. So if I think, oh, this would be better for her, and you could look at it and say, geez, I look a lot worse. So I kind of have to get out of the way, and we're not looking for better or worse, we're just looking to see what's different when we film again.
I'll call you if anybody drops out. Best we could do. Thank
You
you.
should be okay, there's several doctors in here. Nurse.
CPR.
I know how to do it.
Oh, are you a nurse?
Yeah.
All right, we were at a baseball game a couple of years ago, and one of the granddads collapsed. And I just finished a CPR
That's
class.
awful, isn't it?
Oh,
Everyone's
fine.
looking at you like, save that person. It's like, but they're already dead.
Yeah, this guy was,
Yeah, I know.
some lady ran over and she said, do you know what you're doing? And I just finished a CPR class. I said no, because she seemed like she did. And boy, she got after it. She knew exactly, but it was such a relief to my system trying to, I couldn't remember anything. Everything just went into the freeze mode. Tuesday night I went back to the follow-up evening with Martin, and I said to him, I have no idea what's going on. I said, it feels like trillions of little laughters going off in my body. I said, I feel like the village idiot. And he said, the class was called Self Actualization, Mick. Now, I was pretty stuck to my doctor. You know what I mean? That was my ego personality. That's who I was. And so I said, okay, well then it's Dr. Village Idiot to you, because I had to maintain my title somehow. But you're in for an adventure. I don't know what anybody here will get out of the adventure. There's going to be times when it's going to be uncomfortable for all of us in here. My mom is doing, in 2 weeks I do a class in Philadelphia, and my mom said she's going to come to the first class ever with me. I've been doing this 18 years. And she said, well, if I get uncomfortable, can I leave? And I said, only if I can go with you. She said, what? I said, my work gets uncomfortable sometimes. I said, but over the years, because we're going to have to look at some things, and not your problems. I don't care about your problems. Think about it. But we're going to look at things, and they may be a little bit uncomfortable for you, and we're going to have fun with that. Okay, that's one of the great things that I do. Not patting myself on the back, but my mentor was fairly serious about his work. And I've worked in a different aspect, a different skew to it, where I have a bunch more fun with people than he did. So less than, did you say 7? Was that or 6 or 7?
You know, like I said, it's just like the past, I'm sort of trying to re-identify myself, and I don't know where I am.
Go.
So it's just what worked for me before. That's not where I am now.
Yeah. We were talking about the plastic universe today.
Mm.
Everything changes, right? The whole world, everything is changing so rapidly. Okay, let me try and let me give you a little bit of a common language here so that we can talk, so that when I say certain words, you're going to hear them as I use them. They're not necessarily right, it's just how I use them. Usually I have a picture on the back of my daughter with that same, I ask you to be real pan-faced, just kind of relaxed. She's 4 years old, and she wants to be a model. She's made money at modeling. By 12, she's made several $1,000s modeling. But they took a picture of her, and it was just that same first picture that I asked you with the full face. And we use it because you can see in her eyes this brilliant intelligence. Not because she's one of my kids, it's how kids are. The eyes are real sparkly, and there's really nothing there. There's no sadness, there's no melancholy, there's no depression, there's no anger, there's no tiredness. Because one of the things that's true is by that age she hasn't learned it yet. Right? All of the things that I just mentioned, we have to use an immense amount of our intelligence on how to do those things, how to become those things. I had a lady come to my class in England a year and a half ago, and she said that she was depressed. Now, I'm not a clinical psychologist, but my father was a professional musician and he committed suicide. So I know depression. You know what I mean? It's not, and I kept talking to her, and I could see that there was no apathy, there was none of that sluggishness. She was real sad, and there was conflict about things in her life. And we got talking, I said, what's the big conflict? And she said, well, I want to have another baby. I said, what's the conflict? She said, well, my husband has a less than a great job and the money, and I said, don't ever let that stop you from doing anything in life. And she voluntarily stopped her antidepressant drugs. But somebody had looked at her, and because she was crying, they said, you're depressed. But if you know anything about depression, not a lot of depressed people cry. They're too depressed to cry. And it's a fairly simple thing, but she was put on medications for it. But the reason I can make those kind of distinctions is because I've this system here. These are the chakras. You guys know what I'm talking about, the chakras, the 7 energy centers, right? Whether they exist or not, I don't know. right? I was in California, and I made that statement, and a lady said, I can prove that they exist. I thought, whoa, cool. I said, okay, let me see your proof. And she pulled a pendulum out of her purse. See, they exist. I thought, okay, that's enough for me. I know. I now believe that they exist. But when you came onto the planet, who in here has kids? You don't have kids? Would you like to? Just kidding. Sorry, it gets worse. I'm telling you, it gets worse. So do you have kids? No. You. Okay? Remember the first time you held your baby? Remember how unbelievable it was?
I don't know. I kind of had a bad first pregnancy, and
Okay.
I was just like exhausted.
Okay. With our first baby, my wife kept saying to me, don't you get it, like when she was laying in our bed that night, we had our babies at home, right? She kept, don't you get a sense that she's been here forever? And my wife was in a different space than me, completely.
My 2 other children were like that, but not my first one.
Okay. For me, it was like, okay, I had a great time with my wife several times, but at least one time, she took me seriously a few months earlier, right? And then out comes this perfectly formed, and they are. They haven't done anything consciously to perfectly form themselves, right? They haven't. None of us were in there thinking, oh, now it's time to make this finger. It's gonna be that long, and now I've got to make my, right? All of that's happening in the system, and if anybody's worried about whether you've been successful in life, relax. You won the ultimate race. I mean, 4 billion spermies were shot out at the same time as you, and you won. Ta-da! Okay, that's the motivational part of the speech. But the babies are out in bliss. They're an inspiration. If a baby comes into the room, it will captivate the room, right? Everybody will want to hold it or touch it or talk to it or whatever. They're enthusiastic. They're ecstatic. They're excited. They're passionate, and they trust completely. I'm talking about fairly normal births. And my 4-year-old, my 5-year-old now, informed me the other day, we were walking, and she said, Dad, if you scratch your butt, your finger will smell like poop. I said, well, thank you, honey. I do appreciate that. She picked up a Ritz box right off the table, and she said, I wonder what Ritz have in them. She picked up the box, looked at the right part where the ingredients are, and says, I forgot. I can't read yet. Okay. But in the first 2 years of, as the soft spot, that anterior fontanelle they call it, it's huge in a baby. And it's really soft. You can feel, it's kind of creepy. You can feel the pulse and stuff like that. And my kids, when they were real little, they had real fine hair. And their hair in the mornings would be up in a spiral when they would wake up. And I called it their antenna to God, because it's just that openness up to the system. Right? As we start to learn our physical limitations, as we start to learn that we've reincarnated or been born into, whatever your personal theories are, they're okay with me. I find them all entertaining. I can believe in a whole bunch of things all at once. I don't know how I can do that. And I find them fascinating, and a lot of them I find absolutely ridiculous, but we'll get a little bit into that this weekend as well. But as we start to realize that we're in a physical form, we start to lose a couple of these. These start to dim. The chakras start to dim a little bit. We don't lose them at all. But when you have the baby puts its own foot in its mouth and bites really hard, and then it's startled because it's connected, right? Or my favorite one, and I know you're not supposed to, but when they have a rattle and they hit themselves in the head with the rattle, right? And then they start crying because they can't figure out, like, who the hell's hitting me? Right? Because there's no connection to the physical form. But as that physical form connection starts, these 2 chakras here start to dim. The inspiration and bliss start to dim a little bit, because we're spiritual journeys, we're spiritual beings, but we're on a physical journey. So we have to learn how to be in those 2 things. It's almost a paradox. Now, if you think of the spirit is light and fun and happy. As far as I'm concerned, I could be really, really wrong. I could get to heaven and God could push the down button. I'm going to talk to her first, though I am. I think the spirit is light and fun and meant for happiness. But like I say, I could be wrong. There seems to be a whole conspiracy that that's not true. Enthusiasm and self-actualization has been moved around on these charts. We keep it here for a couple of reasons. One, because Nicole's book on parenting and watching the children, she said at this age, when a child starts to talk, is when they start to form an identity that is firm. Right? They start to talk and they'll use certain phrases, and they start to form an identity that starts to dim their self-actualization. And they can hear a word at this point in time. When you get to this age, it's about 2.5 years old, you can hear a word you've never heard before, which is the word, and the word is no. Because you ask for things and you can be told no. Up until then, whatever you've demanded, you've gotten. Because you didn't know how to communicate. You screamed and you yelled and you got whatever you needed. You got changed, you got fed, you got held, whatever happened. Naomi is our fourth baby. We were walking through a drugstore in Seattle, and there was a toy right down at kids' level, which I think is unfair. You know what I mean? They put them right down there, and we're walking by, and she said, "Can I have that?" I said, "No." And she said, "Wham." I said, "What?" She said, "Wham." I said, "Is that it?" And she said, "That's all that's worth, Dad." So we do whams in the family. You know, when we went to the Lincoln Memorial a few years ago, and the bottom part was closed, and I went to the security guard. I said, "Is there no way," I said, "we've come a long way, that we can get down there and see it?" And he said, "No." And I said, "Wham." And he said, "Well, because," I said, No, that was an audible whine, I'm sorry." And he said, "That was horrible." And, okay, the charts read across this way as well, okay? So for the individual, bliss in a relationship, it's an alignment. If you jump it over to a relationship, regardless of the relationship, whether it's romantic or not, if the people in the relationship, two people in the relationship, are in alignment, then they've got something in common, okay? This word down here has been scratched out. This is connection, but we'll get down there. Okay, I've had to change a few words, and I have charts. So enthusiasm, generosity, self-actualization starts to demand you form a voice. You start to ask for things you can't. You start to demand for things and you can't get them. And again, you hear the word no 150,000 times directly applied to you from the time you're 2 till you're 15, to where I think a lot of people get better and faster at telling themselves no. You go to movies, no, I'm not going to do that. You go to, no, I'm not going to do that. All your reasons, your rationale as to why you won't do things, but that's where it starts. It's this thing called enculturation. And if you look out there, I don't see many people living really magnificent lives. And even people would think, you know, I don't like Mr. Bush. I think if of all the people on the planet, when I get really happy that I've not reincarnated or been brought into this lifetime as a person, he's my idol. I'm really happy I didn't come in as him. You know what I mean?
Me too.
Yeah. I look at the certain principles of freedom and liberties in this country, and then you look at, he has none as far as I can see. He can't make a decision on his own. There's so many things that he can't do, and it has nothing, I'm just glad I'm not him. I can say what I want to, I can swear, I can do whatever I want, and nobody's going to take things away from me because I do it, unless I do excessively, of course.
He's the decider. He said so himself.
Uh-huh.
After somebody told him to.
So this chakra dims when we start to talk, 2 to 4 years old, somewhere in there. The heart chakra dims when we start to learn that we can't love everybody unconditionally. Right? Don't talk to that man, he's got shabby clothes on. Mom will love you if you clean up your room. And love becomes a conditional thing as opposed to a one kind of a thing, where you love everybody for no particular reason. Like I said, if a baby comes in here, the baby will love each and every one of us, and it will give us all of its love. Right? And it won't hold any back for any of us, for the most part. Right? Then we end up with a whole bunch more love just by having held that baby. Right? It's just it's the way. And we're going to look at a couple of things like that, how love is inexhaustible. There's a couple of things that are inexhaustible. I consider myself one of the most loved men in the world because I've got 6 kids. Well, they're becoming teenagers, so that's changing.
One of the most unloved.
Actually, they're pretty good, and we're having some rough spots, with the kids. And it's neat to have a technology where you can sit down and talk to them. You can say, look, what's going on? And not get into their heads, not get into their story, just, what are you noticing? What are you sensing? What are you feeling? Where are you getting the impact? And sometimes we can even pick it out. My 14-year-old he's gregarious, he's out there, he's got a great sense of humor, and he gets carried away. But he came in the other day and I started laughing. I said, oh my God. We were sitting at dinner. I said, who does Ian look like? And all the kids knew that it was one of his buddies. I said, oh look, he'd taken on his whole countenance, his whole character. And it's just fascinating when you can stop and look and see who they've become. And then all we did was notice that, and then he comes back to him, he pops back out. So ecstasy, the heart chakra, you're 4 to 5 to 6 in there when you learn that love is a conditional thing. Excitement, belonging, teamwork diminishes when you look around at the team that you were brought into. Now I know that everybody came here is from a completely functional family, right? Your mom rolled over in the morning and said to your dad, what do you want? Because I'm going to see you today. And your dad said, no, honey, that wasn't... the alarm's going off. Okay, I'm lying. It wasn't my family either. My mom and dad stayed together for the kids, which I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that anymore. You know, it was an honorable thing. But when I got out into college, I looked at it, we sat down one day, I said, what are you guys doing? You don't know one another. We seem to like one another. Their construct, they couldn't step outside of that construct and let each other go on to their own personal lives. And we'll talk about relationships in here as well. So teamwork, when I did my first class, I was, like I said, I was a chiropractor, I was single, and one of the things that I knew that was going to compromise my happiness was getting married. Right? Because I looked at other married people and they seemed less happy than me. Right? But my life had been kind of upside down. Since then I've read a lot of research where married people are happier. You haven't been married that long, but right? So
Yeah, but we've been together for
yeah.
years,
Yeah.
years and years.
Then you get out and you get into your teenage years and all those new sexual juices kick in and you're told the weirdest damn things. You know, remember in high school when they asked you to stand up to answer a question, it was physically impossible because your jeans were real tight and you were sitting next to Mary Lou Fafufnik? You know, it's like, could you stand up? No, ma'am, I'm sorry, I can't right now. And you'd walk from class to class sometimes like this with the books in front of you because it's like, Jesus, third leg, this is really awful. So I wear pleats.
My mom bought me wool pants.
What's that?
My mom bought me wool pants.
That's a good thing. They have pleats in them?
No. They were just scratchy.
But we're told we're going to go bald, we're going to go blind, all these things if we, play with ourselves or anything else. I mean, if I even thought about it, or started talking about a girl, my mom, she can get pregnant. Yeah, apparently that's a physiological fact. I don't know what y'all are told. I've heard, keep your dress down, your pants up, and walk home in a crowd. Don't wear patent leather shoes. I mean, all these new things come in, all these new sexual juices come in, and I think this is where the mind, which we'll talk about a little bit more, that little voice that talks to you all the time, becomes more activated. I'm not sure exactly what causes that, but we're seeing that more prevalent now as the kids go through puberty. But one of the most fun things we can do, at least for me, is this second sexual, playful, sexual fun thing, right? But there's all this illogical, repressive thinking around it, and it doesn't have anything to do with what I think is reality. But like I said, I live a different life. When you get out and you get into your late teens, early 20s, you go out and you get a job, but it's not the job you want, but it's a job that gets you enough money to buy a car. But the car is not the car that you want, but the car is a good enough car to get you away from where you don't want to live. And you don't move towards where you do want to live, you move out of where you don't want to live. Right? And you start making decisions based on what you don't want as opposed to what you do want. And nobody kind of stops your world and says, well, wait a minute, what do you want? And I'd been a chiropractor 10 years, and I never, ever stopped to think about the motivation. I never stopped and thought, what the hell made me do this? Why am I doing this? And it was basically my grandmother wanted a doctor in the family. My parents believed in chiropractic. When I got out into it, I loved it. I did kinesiology, acupuncture, all these different things. So there was a constant challenge, but it wasn't. I don't think it's what I came here to do. This is so much more fun. I meet with chiropractors and they say, are you still? I said, I'm not being a chiropractor anymore. How come? I said, it's not enough fun. I'd been in practice about 8 years, walked out of my own practice. My office manager chased me out of the parking lot. It was a Saturday. She said, what are you doing? I said, quitting? No, it's my business. Firing me? No. Being fired? No. But leaving. She said, where are you going? I said, I don't know. Maybe to the beach, maybe. And she said, but you have 2 new patients and the clinic is full and you don't have another doctor in there today. And I said, yeah, I know all those things. And she said, what's going on? I said, everybody in there is complaining. Everybody in there is complaining about something. And she said, it's okay. And she was a great gal. She she was taller than me, of course, to put me on her arm. She said, it's okay, you're a doctor. And it was supposed to appease me somehow, but I realized the whole life that I'd set up was that every conversation I was going to have with somebody was going to be them complaining to me about their life. And it was just wearing on me. And it wasn't that was so bad. It was I didn't know how to direct the conversation because I'd learned from my physicians. You sit down with somebody and you say, okay, what's the problem? Right? Right? And I didn't have any way to get out of that conversation. Right? Because that's what my job was supposed to be.
Yeah, but if that's your mindset to go at that point saying, what's your problem?
Yep.
I don't go in with that idea or that attitude. What are your expectations? Where do you want to be? Where do you want to get to?
That's where I got to. Right? And then getting real honest, I had a guy come in one time with lung cancer. I did, like I said, eclectic chiropractic. I didn't claim to heal anything. But I said, what do you want? And he said, I want to get better fairly quickly with little expense, or I want to die fairly quickly at very little expense. Being the genius that I am, I said, this has something to do with money, doesn't it? Figured it out just like that. And sitting next to him was obviously, we're in Texas, obviously his second wife and his second family, because he was pushing 60 and she was 20-something. And I said, okay, this has something to do with money. He said, yeah, he said, not a big fortune, but I want to leave quite a bit for my kids and my wife. I said, oh, okay. So I said, do you know how many people want you dead? He said, pardon me? I said, well, you can be quite an asshole, right? And he said, I know that. How do you know that? And I said, well, you're self-employed. He said, yeah. I said, if you're self-employed in a successful business, a lot of people will consider you an asshole. Just because you get things done, you're effective. You bark at somebody, oh, what an asshole. I said, and a lot of people would rather see you dead and gather your money than put up with you. I said, I can't accept you as a new patient. And he stood up, he shook my hand, he said, I don't know if I've ever had such an honest conversation. I said, I don't know what you're going to do. I said, but I hope you get better at little expense or die, whatever you want. I said, but I don't know what happened to him after that. But when we can't, even, how old are you? Can I ask how old you are?
72.
Oh, this is so much fun. My mom is 75 and she's coming in 2 weeks and she's kind of sitting in the same position. And she's kind of like, well, okay, she doesn't have monitors on what she wants to be when she grows up.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
Yeah.
And you let her go, though, as far as whether she ever did the technology or not, right? You kind of had a thing that you wanted her to do it, but after a while you just...
Yeah. Yeah, I had to. She did a class with my mentor years ago, and I've asked her several times, and then my sister called and said she was just going through, like what you said, this kind of indecisive, not indecisive, it's not really that, is it?
I'm actually gaining mastery in that area, but I don't want to claim it because I don't want to jinx it.
Many people are living an undefined life,
Yeah.
an uncharted life.
Well, it's all uncharted. Whether it's defined or not, it's still uncharted.
Well, they haven't defined where they want to go, or they haven't thought through where they want to go.
Yeah, but even if they do, it's one, it's still uncharted, and two, one of the things that 4 years ago, I've been working in England for 5 or 6 years now, and a young chiropractor heard about me and said, okay, I've got a clinic now, I want to do a class with you. I went over, there was one person enrolled in the class, I was screaming at my wife, we were having baby number 6, of course it was her fault, there was nobody in the class, and I said, this is nuts, I'm going all that way, and there's nobody, and she said, somehow, this guy really has captivated me. She said, I think that he can fill up your class. And he filled it up with 12 people. Right? Once he saw my work, and we started dreaming together, where we're going to go, what we're going to do, and he passed away 3 years ago now. 32 years old, liver cancer. Took him in a 6-week period. Boy, it was fast. Stayed in our house most of the time while I was dying. Right? He had a vision. But there's these factors that come in that are not. You know what I mean?
There's an expression that says, "You don't know where you're going. Every road gets you there."
Yeah. That's what I like about life. And people keep wanting me to have a direction and things, and I don't. And my wife wants to be famous. It doesn't make any sense to me at all. But when she talks about it, she gets brighter and younger and happier. So I'm obliged to see if I can assist her getting there. But if somebody meets me and says, "Oh, aren't you?" the first thing I go into is fear. What do they do to you? Yeah, I don't know how her life is going to, I don't know how my kids' life is going to. Of course, I worry about their lives. Mine I don't kind of give a shit about most of the time. But then what happens in just as the trust kind of diminishes, we start to realize that we're making decisions not based, and we may not even realize it, on what we want to do. Right? I'm going to turn this upside down. See how the guy's kind of fell on his face here? Right? Because we're going to work out from here, from this area of critical mass. These are the charts that don't have it. This area also has paradox, confusion, okay, in this area here, between the two lines here. But what keeps people from doing most what they do is a thing called fear. False evidence appearing real, or fuck everything and run. Right? That's what I was doing in my practice that day. I didn't know what to do, so I thought, I'm just going to get out of here. I'm going to get out of here. But fear is the shadow of trust. If you learn enough fear in your life, it's not that you'll have any less trust, it's that your system would be clouded over. Right? This is an operating system. This is a pristine operating system that you can operate on if you can run it consciously. Running unconsciously is hard to run on this system. Right? This system is the same thing. It's not to be denied. It's not to pretend you're not in fear, pretend you're not attached, pretend you don't care. Right? If you can be more conscious of this, then you can start to move around these areas here and know this operating system for what it is. This system is an antiquated operating system based on a certain number of preconceived ideas that I don't know if they're valid or not. But the thing that will keep people in this system is fear, right? In this operating system. Has anybody read Michael Crichton's State of Fear? Anybody read that book? I read it mainly. I mean, I like Crichton's writing. It gets a little laborious if you read too many of his books at once. You know, he writes them for movies, and they're not predictable anyway, but they're written in a style that I can't read all the time. But State of Fear, he did a whole bunch of research on this global warming thing, right? And has not come to a conclusion. He's just questioning very heavily whether global warming is happening or not. We had our snowiest winter in Switzerland in years. We had our coldest day in history, of recorded history, last year. Right? And what he does is he goes through and he dissects all of the research. Whether the planet warms up in the next billion years, is it going to affect you dramatically? Nah. It's not. Is it going to affect my kids? I don't think so. I don't think it's going to hit that generation. There might be certain things that impact them. You know, it may be true that because the Gulf is a little bit warmer that the hurricanes are stronger, but I've advised them not to live in Mississippi for a lot of reasons other than hurricanes.
Yeah.
But the one that I love now, what's everybody afraid of right now besides Bush? Just kidding.
Well,
Oil prices,
Huh?
gas prices.
Well, yeah, those are, I mean...
nuclear war in Iran.
What about the bird flu?
Oh,
No, not worried. I love that, though. It hasn't transmuted into a human form, but there's going to be an epidemic soon. Really?
To kill all birds.
That's the only solution I can see too, Bob. In Texas, there's certain species that are protected, and about the worst thing they can do for a species is protect it, right? Because the Texans, if a protected species is on their land, it compromises their land. So they go out and, no, I haven't seen a pink-tailed warbler lately.
there's an annoying bird here. We better call Dick Cheney.
Those senatorial, or those lawyer birds. But fear is as this operating system, even if you start to get free of this operating system, for the most part, fear is what will captivate you and take you back in. Right? Fear is manipulation in a relationship, and it diminishes the connection. Okay? If you spend enough time in that heightened state of fear, right? Oh, something's wrong. You're going to start to get really, really tired. Right? Babies come onto the planet with two basic fears. Anybody know what they are? Fear of loud noises and the fear of falling. Okay, those are the only two instinctual fears that they can find. You'll get a copy of these. If that's what you're writing down, we'll get you a copy before the weekend is over, okay? Because, I mean, you're more than welcome to take notes. I don't know how they would read after you go.
I know.
You're just copying down your bad jokes.
Oh, yeah, okay. Somebody, who did that? Who, for so many years, would just come in for the... Somebody just came and just would take the... Oh, I know. Never mind. What do babies do when they get tired?
They cry.
Not
Or
much.
They sleep.
They go to sleep.
Yeah. Yeah.
My Amy is baby number 5. She was in the creepy crawly stage. We were living in Austin, Texas. She was crawling across the kitchen living combination thing, and all of a sudden she just toppled over. I mean, just... bloop.
My little girl would fall asleep anywhere, on stairs, upside down, behind doors.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
Yeah, it startled me. I thought something was wrong. I went over, she's just
I
falling
lost her
asleep.
once. She was
You know?
behind the door. I thought someone took her. The whole neighborhood was looking for her.
She's just falling asleep behind a door.
Yeah, in the master bathroom.
Yep. Yeah, because they don't, they're not looking, going, oh, geez, I got to be a baby for another 10 minutes, or I've got to get this done, or I've got to get that done, right? They do what's appropriate. Naps are one of the most amazing restorative phenomena that you can do, and most people won't do them. When I get tired, as often as I can, I go to sleep. I take naps. It drives people crazy. If I have
I
people...
just tell my kids, don't tell. And when someone calls, don't tell them I'm sleeping. I don't do it that much, but they inevitably, they're like, oh, my mom's taking a nap. I'm like, don't tell anyone.
I tell everybody, because I think it's one of the most restorative things. But a friend of mine, a man named Tim Ray, we're going to talk about him. Oh, is there a possibility of getting some spit and urine and running some BTMs this weekend on
Yeah,
people?
absolutely. I got the lab kit in the car, and do you want them ready for Saturday morning?
Is that possible?
The only missing element is there are pee cups in my house. I have the lab, and I'll bring the pee cups and earn the break back. And yeah, I'll give everybody, we're ready to go. We'll
You're going to tell us we had to go to your house to pee?
Sure, it's a pee party.
Do you guys know anything about the BTM, biological terrain management? It's testing the spit and urine, spit and paw. But it's a whole group of people's ideas that a man named Tim Ray put onto a computer program. And Tim, we've known each other for 10, 12 years, something like that. He did a course with my wife and then does courses with me. And he lives in our village in Switzerland now. He lived in Hollywood, or in California, for 30-some years, hated Hollywood, or hated California. And then came over to visit, had grown up part of his childhood in Switzerland, and then magically just fell into place. The house, his residency, everything. So he's doing manufacturing and lecturing out of Europe, which people have told him for years that that's where he should be. But we'll get some containers and get some spit and urine from y'all. And it's not to do anything diagnostically, it's just so I'll get some ideas of where you are and I can kind of show you how it works. Right? And then Christos does it out of the office. But I went through this winter, I had a gallbladder attack. Has anybody had a gallbladder attack? Oh, those are a delight. If you ever get a chance, pass it up. Really, it's the amount of pain that you go through is absolutely incredible. And then you go into a place and there's a man with a mask on, with a knife, asking for all your money and your gallbladder. And I got out without gallbladder surgery, but I did a gallbladder flush. Those are a bunch of fun too. Done a couple of those since. But I did the gallbladder flush, did a BTM, and then went skiing. Right? Went up to see Tim, and we'd run the BTM results in, and he's looking at me and he's saying, boy, there's something not right here. And I said, what? He said, the BTM says that this person is real, there's something really, really wrong with them. He said, but you're standing in front of me in a ski suit. It doesn't, he said, there's something, and he started running through and he said, hang on just a minute. What happens when you do a gallbladder flush is you wipe out the intestinal flora. the bile kills all the flora, and we'd forgotten to reestablish the flora. So the BTM shows that there's no flora, or it shows there's something really holy shit going on in the system. Right? So he goes, we do a little bit, and he says, oh, wait a minute. He said, you need to get on probiotics right away, get those bacteria built back up. But it was so incongruous as to who I was at the moment and what was actually going on, but it was valid enough that we said, oh, wait a minute, and it prevented, I think, a whole bunch of other stuff. And we'll just kind of look and see where you sit with within the context of a BTM. Who has amalgam fillings? Who has lead or mercury in their mouth? Anybody else? Do you have gray fillings?
I've been going through a lot of dental work, so I don't know what I've got left.
Are you having the amalgams taken out, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah? Are you detoxifying while you're doing it?
pardon?
Are you detoxifying? Are you getting the heavy metals out of your system?
Well, I've just been through an experience where I've had to have a bridge, and then in the meantime I'm working with Dr. Bailiff's. Bottom line, I ended up with a strep infection that affected, that's where we think it came, well, we know
Okay.
that's where it came from. Then I went to the dermatologist because now my skin is breaking out and peeling. She confirmed it, so yeah, I was on antibiotics for 2 weeks. So I'm not sure exactly where I am with that, because I think,
Okay, I really highly recommend if you have
Yeah.
amalgams, get them out. Really, really highly, highly, highly recommend it. Really, 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 really highly, 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 highly recommend if you have amalgam fillings, getting them out.
By someone who knows how to do it.
By somebody that you're right, by somebody that knows what they're doing, and with the proper detoxification, etc., before and after the procedure. Because you've got a mercury drip going into the system which
Do
compromises
they
the...
do them anymore?
Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
ma'am.
Oh, yeah.
It's fascinating. You've got to ask.
50 to 60% of the dentists in the United States still
You have
put
to
them out.
specify you don't want it,
Oh,
actually.
I never had it.
Me neither. I don't. I've
Me
had
neither.
one
But my
filling
children,
and...
from drinking so much bottled water, they're not getting fluoride, and I know they have.
What are they drink? What kind of water are they
It's like
drinking?
Bottled water, like Deer Park, but without fluoride.
Is it
Spring.
purified water or
Yeah.
spring?
Spring water,
You sure?
yes.
Okay. Because what I found is a lot of the purified water is demineralized and it pulls minerals. The spring water a lot of times isn't that bad for the teeth. I
It's
met a lot
not
of.
bad, it just doesn't have the fluoride that we get out of the tap.
That's not why you're getting decays. I don't think.
Plus, they probably don't brush very well.
That's probably much more the case because the
Acidic, BTM. Acidic
or
environment.
acidic. Yeah, we had a little boy that, his teeth were disintegrating, and we ran a BTM and his whole system was acidic. He was eating his own teeth, the minerals. So it's probably more something like
Well,
that.
they don't have very many, I've never had any, so I didn't think my kids would, but.
Right. Yeah, my sister had a bunch. I had one. My son's got one right now. But it's opposed to fluoride. I
That's
don't.
what they said, and I thought, well, yeah, it does make sense.
No. Well, no.
Fluoride's for.
Yeah, that's what they say
There's
it's
a lot
for.
of problems with fluoride.
Well, I'm sure there is, but to greater America, fluoride's in the water, so you don't get cavities, that's why they.
Right. Our dental hygiene is better, is why you don't get
Well,
cavities.
you also tested with the blood test. We did blood test, IgG
Oh, yeah, I'm
testing.
allergic to it.
Fluoride. Yeah, they were insisting on doing fluoride coatings on the kids' teeth when we were in Switzerland this year.
Yeah, my kids have all had it.
Yeah, they came back and the kids said, "Oh, they did this today." I said, "Whoa, pull out of that." I said, "Tell them I'm not going to put up
I even
with
had that
it."
as an adult, they stopped doing it like over the last 5 years, but.
Yeah, it's fluoride's a real. There's a guy, ewater.com, essential water, and this guy. You want to talk to somebody about water? Holy shit, does he know about water? But the reason he got into water because his son was one of those people who was allergic to fluoride and was sick for years. And once they figured out it was one simple thing, he was drinking fluoridated water.
You know, and I
He got
haven't
better.
drank it for years because it made my stomach hurt.
There you go. My grandma lived to be 102, but I remember I was a little, maybe 6 or 7 years old, and Grandma said they've done something to the tap water. It tastes different. I don't like the taste of it. We had to drive miles to a spring and get her spring water. She would not drink the tap water. And so I don't think it's the fluoride. There might be other things going on with your kids, and I would say 99% I'm sure that it's not the fluoride.
Fluoride binds with the mercury, pulls it in the brain.
Pulls in the brain? Oh, isn't that fascinating?
Yeah.
So, the pediatric dentists don't know this, and they're putting mercury, I'll have to check. Do you know Don Crandall and Jerry Granado? They're friends of ours, and that's where we bring them up.
And most of them will get real defensive about it.
Well,
It's
she
like-
won't, she's really into all this stuff.
Okay. Like when we went to the hospital, when I went in for the gallbladder attack, one of the things, the neat things is we knew the doctor. My daughter had done a
I'm an OR nurse.
2-week thing for her school last year in their house, and she said, they think I'm weird, because she was insisting on organic foods and all these things, and so as soon as he realized who we were, he knew that he was up against somebody that wasn't really conventional thinking. On the Saturday morning after I refused the surgery, the nurse came in, she said, "Doctor wants you to stay another day, but he's pretty sure you're leaving today." And I said, "He's pretty right." So if you spend enough time in this heightened state of fear, you start to get tired. And then we're told you can't do anything about that. They even don't tell them I'm taking a nap. And don't, right? There's some social stigma that you should be tough or something like this. Oh, I got off talking about Tim Ray, who's the innovator of the BTM. I got off on that whole tangent. I don't know if, do you guys know who Anthony Robbins is? The big motivational guy. I mean, before his facial reconstruction surgery, I mean, he looks like Tom Cruise now. I don't know if you know that. I did a class with him 18
So
years.
he's had work done.
Oh my God.
Okay.
Oh my
I was wondering
God.
about that.
No, when I did a class with him 18 years ago, and I wondered whether evolution was a theory. Then I saw him, and I realized it wasn't. You can live the life of my dreams. But I mean, I got nothing against the guy. He's changed millions of people's lives. But he went to Tim as a physician. Tim had a big star practice, and when Tim looked at his BTM, he said, "You need to take naps." He said, "Do you know who I am? I do this, and I do that, and I do this, and I do that." And Tim said, it doesn't matter who you are. The one thing that will serve your health right now is naps." And he said, "I don't have time for naps." His office called a couple of weeks later and said, "Anthony wants you to come and see him." Tim says, "Is he taking naps?" I said, "No." And he said, "Then I'm not going to go see him." Tim was real adamant in his practice. If a person didn't do the simple things to take care of themselves, he wouldn't treat them. That's where I got my practice. "Did you do this?" "No." "Okay, then this is our last visit. I don't have time for this." That's my recommendation. If you're not going to do it, this weekend you're here for something different, right? And if you thought it was the same as everything else, you wouldn't be here. Right? You get up a lot of time. I appreciate it. I appreciate everybody for being here. The time and the money, but you could be doing other things. It looks like it's going to be a pretty weekend out there.
Rain all weekend.
Oh, it's supposed to rain all weekend? Oh, is it? Well, that's very auspicious, according to my friend the Tibetan Lama.
Topper Shot Channel 9.
What's that?
Topper Shot Channel 9 says it's gonna rain.
He's one
He's
of our
our-
preeminent
yeah.
meteorologists.
Is that his name?
Topper Shut, yeah.
Oh, I couldn't figure out what Topper Shot said.
Shot,
It's
yeah.
like, Topper Shot? Who?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a great name.
So if you spend enough time in tiredness, there starts to get like a resentment and anger and alienation. You don't want to be around people, right? And anger, tiredness is the shadow of passion, so you were working out here. If you're doing something that you're really passionate about, a lot of times you don't get tired. It's not that you're denying yourself to sleep, yeah.
But see, they've been putting us under a lid. It's like the administration has us in there since 9/11. I mean, it's like their technology
What?
to put us in there.
Where?
In fear and then tiredness and it's
But you choose fear.
Oh, no,
they're
no.
giving us plenty of it. They're
Yeah,
giving
no,
us
I
a
don't think-
steady
You can
diet
choose
of
to
it.
reject fear.
Oh, I don't believe that. When a dog comes at me, I don't have any choice. Well, I live in Texas, and they got
it's
these.
select things, but you have a choice whether to exist chronically in fear or not.
See, I don't know, Bob. And I theoretically speaking, I agree with you, but I see what's going on for too many people, and they don't seem to have much choice. You know how long people spent per day in indigenous cultures looking for food?
Oh God. They spent days being away.
Any idea on the average how much time they spent gathering food?
Per day.
Yeah.
8 to 10 hours a day, probably.
Any other ideas?
2 hours.
2 hours a day. Food was so plentiful, right? The game was around them. They learned how to capture it. And we're told that they were lived in this state of fear of the predators coming to get them. Well, the predators didn't like fire and they didn't like organized spears, right? This whole myth has been woven for us to think that they were a savage existence, right? Tim Ray was talking to me. He said, Christ, I work 80 hours a week and I can't feed my family sometimes. Right? 2 hours a day is what they say that they for the most part, and they prepared and got ready for seasons and everything. They lived within the culture. But there is this operating system, I'm not sure when it started, but a lot of it started, I think, when organized religion came in and started getting us afraid of everything. Of everything.
I agree.
Right? The
It's
wor-
control.
Right? What if you don't, like, a lot of my neighbors in Texas